Okay, hello everybody and welcome once again to another episode of our patch updates. So like in the previous ones, what we're doing is we're going to go over all the new stuff that's been added in the latest patch. So this is the first significant patch on the Godot Alpha 0 set. And the things that we added in this particular patch, we added the ability to go into the station, which we're going to demonstrate here on stream, of course, as we always do. We cleaned up a few little things that were causing glitches. We tracked down a few additional bugs. We smoothed things out a little bit. You know, as always, it's a continuous, non-stop work in progress. And, you know, we're getting there. We are getting there. I figure probably 10 more patches and we'll be just about ready to go to Alpha 1. And then from Alpha 1, it'll be about tuning and performance and things like that, and then getting to Beta. So, since we issue a patch about every 2 weeks, I'm hoping that the rate of change, you know, won't be too fast for people, but will actually be, you know, moderate and reasonable. The things that came out in this patch, we're still kind of catching up to where we were on Unreal. But I was able to get the Blender animation, you know, figured out enough that I can do it. I was able to get the whole new interior done. The new interior is actually quite a bit different than the old interior was, if you remember what the old interior looked like. We'll look at that here in a minute. The new interior, that is. I think it's a lot cleaner. I think it works a lot better. We've got a lot of little lighting fixes on the interior. And I was also able to get a basic motion controller set up and a movement controller for the player, and, you know, moving it back and forth. One of the things that I'm doing that has not been a direct implementation of what we had previously is the landing. Under Unreal, we had a very different method of landing. You would basically go through the hole in the top of the station area through these big doors, and then you would maneuver up to like these little gangways and park, and then you would go inside the station. And it seemed to be an area a lot of people had a lot of trouble with. So I decided to re-implement that in a whole different way. What you're going to see today is not what I would consider the final version of that re-implementation, but more of a first brush at it. Because I have a lot of modeling to do, because I am doing a completely new interior. I did not like how the interior looked for the old one. So we're doing an all-new from-scratch interior, and I've got at least 150 hours of Blender work to do before that new interior is ready. So what we're doing instead is you're going to go to the parking zone, and then it will teleport you into the station. And then when you go to the station cargo bay doors, it will teleport you back to your ship. It's not ideal, but, you know, it'll work for now. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get to the actual gameplay. So, we are moving our studio. We're relocating, so everything's kind of chaotic. So for the moment, I'm still running on a single screen, so we're just going to hop over to it. I'll be keeping track of any comments or questions from people on the stream via a second screen that's on my mobile. So it should be fairly quick, but it won't be quite as smooth as when I have multiple screens. I hope to be back to the multiple screen setup in a couple months. Probably in time for the June update. Okay, so here we go. Okay, and I'll be doing all of this today via gamepad because I really need to make sure that I get my gamepad testing in place. So, as you noticed, we're using the D-pad for UI maneuvering because I find the D-pad to be more precise for UI. So the left stick and the right stick don't do anything in the UI. So, you know, don't expect them to. It's all D-pad based. If enough people say that it needs to be gamepad joystick based instead of D-pad, then we'll certainly take that feedback and we'll add it. I'll be doing a poll on the forum about that at some point. And yes, hello and welcome, Jess. I appreciate you being here as always. You're awesome. Yes, and you like the D-pad for UI maneuvering? Yes, I do too. And that was a strong request we had from our alpha testers, was to have that. Okay, so here we go. Now here's the ship shop. There are some things in here that we still need to implement. In general, you're going to want to go left to right all the way through these options before hitting next and hitting the big button to go through. I wanted to be able to just have people just jump directly in, but that seems to produce a bug on the Twitch launcher. I'm not sure why. I can't reproduce it without the Twitch launcher. But with the Twitch launcher, it sometimes crashes if you just jump directly to go. So we're going to be cleaning up the ship shop a little bit. That's going to be in the next patch, along with interiors on the ship. So we'll be working on that then. But for now, let's go ahead and, you can look at the different ship, you can change your options, you can switch models entirely. And then I'm using the mouse right here just because it's second nature for me. I really should be using the gamepad. So there you go. So on the gamepad, if you're using the right stick, you can maneuver it around like this. And then the D-pad, of course, to switch options. And then the left stick doesn't do anything in the ship shop. And we've put the little press D-pad to select down there to make it clear that it sees it. Oh, did I say Twitch? I meant itch. I'm sorry, the itch launcher. Okay, so here we've got just the one con available to us. And we've got just the one engine available to us. There's just the Spectre engines. And then we're going to go ahead and go with that. Okay. I'm keeping it bright red just so it's more visible for stream. Alright, so let's take a look at some of the new stuff that's been added and implemented. So among the new things that have been added, this screen now works properly, and it now listens to the gamepad input properly. So you can now go in here. I added this little option right here where it says the destination. This will now show up on all the jobs to make it easier for you to figure out what job you're supposed to be working on. And that supports both gamepad and mouse. And then I also added the R3 button. The clicking down on the right stick will change your interaction mode. So you see the little mouse pops up there. Yes, and the instructions sit there. Again, we'll work on having them stay a little longer if we need them to. We'll work on that. And again, as before, you can just press on the right special on the Xbox. It's the one with the 3 lines, or it's the control key, or on the PlayStation button, it's the right special. And then you can navigate through all this with the gamepad too. So let's go ahead and grab one that goes to Station Alpha just to demonstrate the concept. So I pick the one that I want to do, and then I press right on the D-pad, and it comes down here to the accept. We'll still iron all this out. I would like these to eventually have the button that you press to accept, so they'd have like A or B or whatever. But we're still working out the little bits like that. Welcome, Suffer Bias. Nice to see you here. And then this little prompt screen is a specific gift from Suffer Bias, who was like, I would really like a confirmation screen. So we added a confirmation screen right here. So we'll take that job. And now we can look at it and we can see that we have the Space Trans Go. It tells us our destination, our cargo type, cargo mass, the mass that we can carry, all that kind of good stuff. And still working on getting the gamepad interaction smoothed out, but we're getting there. Okay, so now you can see that little red highlight. That little red highlight was something that... And welcome, Sten! Awesome to see you guys here. And that little red highlight there, that is actually something that Mythos specifically wanted, so we've gone ahead and added that. Oh, and you made some popcorn as well, Suffer? That's awesome. Okay, so we're heading to our delivery location right now. And we, of course, have the collision turned on for these things now, so I have to actually move around it. So with the nice red highlight, you can see exactly where you're supposed to park your ship and where it will take effect when you actually get to it. So it's not like, a guess and check thing anymore. It's actually very clear. And there'll be different sizes, for example, because it'll depend on the radius of what you're heading to. If you're heading to talk to an individual person, for example, it's going to be a very small radius. If your destination is to drop something off at a planet, it's a very, very big radius. And you can see the effects of the ray tracing there. Okay. And there we go. Delivery completed. There's 6,000 credits for us. Okay, and now we're going to show off one of the first parts of this new patch. Well, that was one of the first parts, but we're going to show off another one of the first parts of this first patch. We're going to come around here, and we're going to land at that really hideous yellow circle. Now, I need to make that a different color, maybe like a light blue or something. I don't know. We'll get some feedback from people and see what they like for colors. The yellow just occurred to me as, you know, I wanted to avoid red-green colorblind incompatible colors. And I'm like, how about yellow? I'm like, well, yellow's really hideous, but I didn't have time to change it. So, yellow it is. Okay, we're going a little too fast, so let's come back here. And let's bring it in on a nice little intercept. Yeah, I think I'll go for like a nice tealy color or something. Or perhaps I'll have it do that little scan line thing once I figure out how to do more advanced shaders in Godot. We'll get there. I'm glad the subtitles CC are working. I can't see how awful the things that they're coming up with are, but hopefully they're doing okay. They seem to work out okay on the last stream, so I'm hoping that the subtitles are working okay on this one. Ah, yes, and you like the teal and aqua just? Good, I'll try for that. And the jerkiness is actually something I need to work on with the animation timer for the spin. We'll work that out. Okay, so here we go. I'm just going to go ahead and land. And then it just goes to, hey, you're docking your ship. There we go. And now, for the first time ever on stream, here is the interior. So this is probably pretty obvious, but red means the door is locked. So the door to the academy is locked. The door to the hangar bay is locked. The door to the quartermaster's office is locked. So if you bump into them, they just stay locked. Okay. Now the hangar bay one does actually take you out to the hangar bay. It's just locked so you don't fall off. So here's the new interaction interface. And as you can see, depending on the angle that you're at from it, it can be, you know, fairly intense or fairly minor. This is my first attempt at a Sobel in Godot, so I think it does okay. It's not too bad. And then it's got a little bit of a delay when you go off the side. I made it about 0.3 of a second so that it wouldn't be too frustratingly, you know, fast. And then, of course, you can either press B on your keyboard or you can press B on your gamepad to select it. And as you can see, there's our job board. So let's go ahead and take our next job, and let's take it for... Oh, sure, we'll take one that goes to the station, from the station. Why not, right? That's silly enough that it just might work. So we're not going to actually get a indicator inside the station, but we will outside. Will there be a shady-looking cat that gives a side quest for the key card? That's awesome. I love that. Not quite yet, but there will be plenty of people who will be giving quests. But the first thing we're going to do is we're going to check out Bad Luck's Bar. Now, you guys all remember Bad Luck Bart. Now, currently, everybody's off on smoke break, so you can't see them here yet. Here's another screen that you can use. And look at that real-time lighting. Isn't that neat? So that's all ray tracing. And right now I don't have clipping turned on the tables or anything, so you can just kind of walk through them. The bar does have clipping, though. And the walls, obviously. So back here, this is going to be filled with all kinds of interesting glassware at some point. We'll make it all look very lived in. You've got your secret little shady trader zone back here. Kind of fenced in from everybody else. A few tables with some interesting lighting effects that I set up. And you'll notice that I went with kind of a blocky effect. These are like not perfectly spherical or perfectly smooth, and that's actually on purpose. I wanted them to look like reclaimed, you know, ship parts. So you know, I wanted everything here to look like the stuff in the bar was basically taken out of some kind of ship. So we got like some deck plating here for the bar. We've got some kinds of various parts that have been salvaged and tossed in. So I'm hoping that it accomplishes that kind of salvaged look, because I really wanted it to have that dive bar made out of salvaged parts feel to it. Okay, and we're going to head back on out, and as you can see, the reason it says L1 Commons is because there's going to be multiple levels that you can access from the hangar elevator. So I hope you're looking forward to that, because that's going to be pretty cool. At some point, when you come out here, this will actually open into an elevator, and that elevator will take you down to the hangar bay floor where you can get into your ship. Okay, so here we are back in our ship, and there's our delivery over there. Yes. And Ray, who worked very hard to trace this. Good going, Ray. Yes, thank you. Now, one thing I'm pretty excited about is the Godot 4 3D graphics team has placed ray tracing very high on their list, so they're going to be doing a lot of work on ray tracing over the next few months. Oh, yes. So that part right there where you basically hop from your ship back, that's the part I was talking about, where right now we're skipping it because there's about 150 hours of Blender modeling for the hangar bay that I still need to do. Eventually what's going to happen is you'll have a live cutscene, basically an in-game cutscene, not a video, but a live cutscene where your ship will go from landing on the pad, it'll go down into the hangar bay, and then you'll jump out of the ship at the hangar bay, and then you'll be able to walk over to the elevators and go up. Or you'll be able to just hit a skip button and just skip directly to the interior. So let's go ahead and do this delivery here. Just because we're in the neighborhood. Boom, there's 4,000 more. I wish I could spend them on something, but somebody's been slacking and hasn't written all the pieces necessary to buy things yet. Unfortunately, that somebody is me, so all I can do is look disapprovingly in the mirror. Okay, so let me go ahead and show you one of the other things that I fixed, depending on when you looked at it last. So we're going to go ahead and take a job that's out here for one of the... Yeah, let's take a job for Alpha 1. Why does everything want to go to the station when I want to go to Alpha 1? Okay, well, let me switch over to medium jobs and see if any of those... Aha, there's one for Alpha 1. Okay. So let's take this job. There you go, and see how it's a much, 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 much bigger sphere now? That's because you basically just have to get, you know, pretty close to the planet, and you'll be able to take that job and shove it. You'll be able to drop off that job much closer without having to actually land on the planet. So let's go ahead and take one that's on Alpha 1 Minor now, to show that the abandoning jobs also works. So cancel current job to take job from planet to space. So you say yes. And that now works. Yes, we will definitely have a Cygnus pizza shop. And we're probably going to see if we can't do a Monster Finger Games crossover bit in there as well, because Monster Finger Games did a lot of cool Cygnus pizza crossovers, so we'll try to do some Monster Finger Games crossovers as well. Okay, so you can see that it now highlights the moon, and the highlight has been removed from the planet. That's a fix from the previous one. Not like a huge thing, but a little bug fix. The distance is also much greater now to these. So before, these were only 50,000 kilometers away. Now they're like 90 to 100,000 kilometers away. So the travel time is much, much higher. So we're not going to bother traveling all the way out there. You'll notice that I also set it up so you can see the ship a little bit closer up. So you can actually make out what it says on the side for your ship name. You should be able to add ship names in the next patch or two. And of course we're supporting Unicode, so you can do things like name it the Pina Colada. Yes, arcade cabinets would definitely be fun. As you know, I've already modeled some arcade cabinets. We use one in our logo. Okay, I think that covers most of the significant improvements. Oh, And also, this is an improvement that is fairly minor, but the throttle actually now does throttly things as opposed to doing nothing. So depending on which patch you saw, that was actually technically in the break fix patch, but it's also in this one. Okay, so I believe that covers pretty much all the major changes that went on in this version. So let me go ahead and hop out of here. I'll just hit escape and it will take me back to the main menu there. And without that flash that we were getting, so that should be nicer. Okay, so that's the main improvements that are coming in this particular patch, in the 0.1 patch that just went up. If you're using the itch launcher, you may have to uninstall and then reinstall, or you'll have to apply both patches if you haven't applied both patches yet, because it seems to only apply one patch at a time. I'm not 100% a fan of itch's launcher, so, you know, however you want to do it. Anything that you want to do, you know, it works. Just make sure that you're on Alpha 0.1 before you submit any bug reports, so that you actually are on current. Okay, now, does anyone have any questions or any stuff that they want to ask or bring up? I will be happy to address any of those questions. And then if there's no questions, we'll move on to what's going to be coming next. Next time on... Would I let people make liquor bottles in Blender so that they can decorate? Oh, you mean as in make their own? Or do you mean for the actual game? I don't know if we can import entire models, like ad hoc. I mean, if people want to send me bottles that they would like in the game, and then we'll put the bottle in there just for fun, yes. But like after the fact, once the game is shipped, I don't know that I can import entire models. But yeah, while we're in development, if people want to send me things to decorate, if the people want to send me bottles and like put their little name on the bottle, like, you know, Suffer Bias's super awesome slow gin or something, yeah, I'll be happy to put them in there. That'd be fun. I think that would be a very amusing and interesting way for people to participate a little bit. Okay. Instructions for making them. Basically, the instructions for making them that would matter is make sure you do it in Blender, and then make sure you send me either a GLTF file or send me the actual blend file if you would like to actually create them and have them contributed to the game. And then I'll make sure that your name is listed in the contribution section, and ideally put your name in the title of the bottle so that when people look at it, they can see it. Okay, yes, that's what you're hoping to hear? Excellent. Okay, well, I think... nice. And Sten is down for bottle or 3. And so Suffer. Awesome. Okay, so here's what's coming next. Next time on Patch Notes, we're going to be going through... In fact, let me go ahead and share the forum so we can go over the patch notes and everything together real quick. I find that tends to work pretty well, so let me do that. Let's see, I can share the browser usually pretty easily. Okay, there we go, and I'll just pop it up. Oh, and I need to move the browser up higher on OBS. You'd think I just started using OBS yesterday, I'm so bad at it. Okay, so there we go. So, let me move that down just a skosh. There we go. Okay. Okay, so, under the current info, I have, of course, the work in progress thread. And let me drop that link there for everybody. There you go. Okay, and where'd the forum go? Ah, where'd it go? Okay. Excuse my being incompetent there for a moment. So here's the most recent. We always drop all the patch notes and everything, as well as what we're working on here in the work in progress current info thread. So the fixes improvements in this patch, the shell of Bad Luck's bar is now there, as you saw. The first person mode now has the interaction open to open things. The selection Sobel effect in first person mode. Let me know if that's too excessive or too bright or anything, or if it's just fine. And then the job workflow tweaks that I was showing you, with things like a little bit better gamepad support for it, and the fact that it now shows your destination so that you know where you're going, which is nice in case you forget. Some graphic tweaks, mostly regarding the fade in, fade out of levels. I found a better way to do that should fix the problem that it was having. You can now land at the yellow sphere on the station module. That was an important one because I had not done that properly previously. So there was no way to actually land on the station, and now there is. And let's see, the known bugs. For some reason, from the itch launcher, if you click directly on the green check as soon as a ship builder starts, instead of going through the options to paint, the itch launcher version will sometimes crash. I haven't been able to reproduce it by just launching the executable, so I don't know if that's something to do with the itch launcher, or if that's just a different bug and it's exacerbating it. But that's all going to be changed anyways. That whole ship launcher workflow is very, very early first attempt. It's going to get improvements for, making it more gamepad accessible, making it smoother, all that kind of stuff. And also, it'll stop popping up every single time, obviously. Okay, and then, of course, you can go to the feedback thread on the forum. Which, let me just open this in a new tab so you can see it here. And then each time there's a new patch, I put it here in the feedback thread. And then you folks can always just dump your feedback on it. Let me know what works, what doesn't work. Like a fellow was having some issues with gamepad support. It turns out it was probably just the USB controller being plugged and unplugged. But just go ahead and jump in here and reply to this thread. As you can see, I am watching this thread, so I will always see feedback that you post here. And that way, that feedback will be preserved. So if we see a new issue, it's not just lost in the history of a Discord someplace, it's actually somewhere where people can find it. So by all means, please do that. And I am so glad that you love the music, Sten. I love the music too. I paid a lot of money for this music, and I think it was worth it. Okay, let's see, what's next? Oh, yeah, the next thing that we need to go through is... Where was I? Oh, yeah, the what's coming next. Okay, so what's coming next is the cockpit views. Okay, so the cockpit views from previous, I think they're up here a little bit further. We're basically using the same models, and I got everything to work pretty much the same. So let me zip up here a ways. There we go. So these are the interior cockpit views. This is the single-seater interior, and the twin-seater interior is this one. And these cockpit views are all set. They exist. They're working, and they're already implemented in Godot. What I have not yet implemented is changing cameras. So changing cameras will be coming up here shortly, now that I know how to do that. So we will have the camera change options being set up, and they'll be available for the next patch. Because I know that's a big one that everybody wants. And I know the cockpit's not as advanced as some people would like it to be. That's fair. But it will do for now. It's a good alpha cockpit, I think. I think it suffices for now. And then, let's see, the next thing on the list will be the hangar bay modeling, and that will be coming soon. Thank you, Suffer. I appreciate that. I've worked really hard on it, so I'm glad that you think that it looks really nice. I've worked really hard to give you guys a good-looking game. So next up is the hangar bay itself, and that's just a lot of modeling work, because I have to model and build the whole interior of that station, and build the entire hangar bay from scratch to get that to all look right. And I'm going to try to lean on a few pre-mates for some pieces here and there, some pillars or some wall textures or whatever, to speed it up a little bit, to get it down to about 150 hours from about 500. So there'll be a few like pre-made textures and things like that, but otherwise it's going to have to be pretty much from scratch, because there aren't a whole lot of hangar bay designs. I mean, shockingly enough, they all kind of look the same. I mean, if you go look for hangar bay designs, you basically get either Battlestar Galactica's or Star Trek or Star Wars hangar bays. And all those hangar bays presuppose a sort of gravity that exists that goes the wrong direction. It's 90 degrees off from how gravity would go in a station. So it's a little bit weird, really. So what we're actually going to aim for is a interior hangar bay that's more similar to those interesting car storage bays you see in the Porsche dealership cars, and the cars sit on a big spiral, and then the machine comes up and picks one off and drops it off for you. So we're going to aim for something that's a bit more inspired by that kind of, concept, and has more of a feeling of this actually exists on a space station where down isn't produced by some kind of magical force, but is more of a concept than a hard-fought thing. We'll see how it works. I don't really know. I ended up having to go with the down concept not being a rotational down in order for the station to come together the way people wanted it to, and that may be the case with the hangar bay too. We'll see. I find that space physics, doesn't tend to lend itself well to a good playing experience, because humans don't intuitively understand space physics, and so it just feels awkward. I mean, if you look at the problems if you look at the problems that the Robert Space Industries Star Citizen has, when you try to force people to use more realistic physics, the more realistic the physics gets, the more awkward it gets for people, right? Because you're sitting in a location where everything around you has one very specific kind of gravity, and so dealing with an environment that has a different kind of gravity can be very disorienting. And as Jess points out, down has to do with how the camera is affixed, and that's very true. But if you were to, for example, walk out of this corridor and then walk into another corridor that was 90 degrees off, that would feel very odd and awkward. So we'll get there. We'll come up with a design that works both intuitively and actually, and most importantly, because that part is going to be more of a cutscene, it will be less awkward for people because they can see their ship, be rotated through multiple degrees without having to go through the discomfort of the camera rotating through multiple degrees and things like that. We'll see how it works. I think you're right there, Jess. People want space physics, but they don't really want space physics. Yeah, in 100 years, when people are traveling in space more often, it'll be more intuitive. Yes, there's a reason why piloting a spacecraft is a whole separate education at NASA, as Sten points out. Yeah, it's working in 6 degrees of freedom is tricky. I've had more than a few people have issues with the controls already in Smugglers, and I think we've made them very, very arcadey, and we continuously refine that to keep them more to a Star Fox kind of idea of spaceship controls, and less of a Star Citizen spaceship controls to make it easier for people. And we'll keep doing that. However it works best for you guys is the direction that we'll try to move things. And you know that. Okay, so that's what's coming up. The next things in the pipe are cockpit views. That will be in the next patch. 100% will be in the next patch. You will not be able to walk around the cockpit, but you'll be able to pilot from the cockpit. The reason for that is walking around the cockpit is a very interesting physics challenge, and we'll get there when we get there. At the moment, we're not there. So, being able to pilot from inside the cockpit is coming in the next patch. The hangar bay is coming soon, though maybe not the patch after that. We'll see. And our studio relocation should not impact our deliverables for that too much, but they might a little bit. We'll see. Characters are coming to Bad Luck Bart's bar in the next patch. So the next patch is going to be a big one graphically, which will be a lot of fun. I love showing off big graphical change patches. It's really easy for people to understand. When you can show a picture like the interior of Bad Luck Bart's bar, they really get it. If you're changing your ship handling and you spent 7 months working on changing your ship flight model, you can't really show that off with photos very well. It makes it rough. Yes, flying from the hot seat is coming in the next patch. Okay, so I think we covered everything that's in this patch. We covered everything that's in the next patch. Let me go ahead and drop the you don't need the devlog. Let me go ahead and drop the itch link here in the stream, just so people who are watching the stream later can easily find it. Anybody who wants to go take a look at it can go over there and take a look at it anytime they want. Drop your feedback here in the feedback thread. It's all free. Don't even worry about it. On the pre-alpha, we're not charging anybody a penny. When we get to actual launch, the game will be $40. But up until that point, it's going to be free, because I don't believe in early access being something that you pay for. I believe in early access being something that I'm grateful that you're even giving us a chance to look at it. And I think that's the way that needs to go. I'm grateful for your feedback. You don't need to pay me for getting access to it. So that's just how it's going to be for anybody who wants early access. Go grab it. It's free. Enjoy. Okay, so thank you guys very much for being here. Thank you so much for helping and supporting and providing feedback and all that. We literally couldn't do it without you. And I will see you guys all on the next stream. Right now, it is time for me to go ahead and take some questions. If anybody has questions or comments or feedback. So I'll give you a minute for that, to get through the YouTube delay here. Thank you, Jess. I appreciate it, and you and Sten also work very hard on this. You guys have done an amazing job helping. I'm just doing the actual Cody bits. Alright, well, thank you, Sephiroth. I appreciate it, and I think nobody has any questions or anything, so I'm going to go ahead and cut it here. Now, before I cut this, I'm going to give you guys a quick plug. I'm going to be doing some electronics cleaning and restoration of retro consoles and retro electronics streams. But I'll probably be doing those under a different YouTube stream, just so it doesn't confuse people with the overlap between Longplay games and just me personally cleaning some electronics and some retro consoles and stuff. So if that's the kind of thing that you're interested in, let me know, and I'll be happy to drop links for that when those accounts exist. Probably next patch I'll have those accounts started. So keep an eye out for those if that's the kind of thing you're into. Thank you guys for supporting Smugglers of Cygnus. Thank you all for being Cygnus Pizza Racers. You were all completely awesome, and I appreciate it so, so much. Have an awesome weekend, and thank you for spending some of it with us.